Okay, so I want you to picture a scenario. Just put yourself in this mindset.
All right, I am ready.
It is 1902. You are walking down a really busy cobblestone street in Chicago.
Got the visual.
The wind is whipping off the lake. People are just bustling past you in heavy wool coats, bowler hats.
Very turn of the century.
Exactly. It is loud, it's chaotic, and it's this time of just massive transition in the world. Now imagine you lock eyes with a stranger for maybe, I don't know, 2 seconds as they pass you on the sidewalk.
Okay, just a glance.
Just a split second. Do you think you could know, and I mean absolutely know, if they are a good person?
Based on a 2-second glance.
Right. Or if they're a loyal spouse. Or if they're secretly some dangerous criminal who might mug you in the next alley?
I mean, realistically, no. It sounds like a superpower, doesn't it?
It really does.
Or maybe something out of a Sherlock Holmes novel, where he deduces a man's entire life history from, like, the mud on his boots or the shape of his hat.
Right.
But for the man we are discussing today, this wasn't magic at all. And it wasn't intuition either. It was geometry.
Geometry.
It was entirely, in his mind, absolute, irrefutable science.
And that brings us to what we're doing today. We are doing a deep dive into a truly distinctive and honestly kind of mind-blowing piece of history.
It really is wild to read today.
We have the original text right here in front of us. It's called Vaught's Practical Character Reader, published in 1902 by a man named L.A. Vaught.
Good old L.A. Vaught.
And the first thing that strikes you when you open this book, aside from the incredibly distinct illustrations, which we are absolutely going to get to, is the sheer confidence.
Oh, the confidence is off the charts.
This guy didn't think human nature was a mystery to be solved. He thought it was a literal map to be read.
A map made of bone and muscle.
Yeah.
Vaught really represents the peak of what we might call the certainty era of physiognomy and phrenology.
The certainty era, I like that.
Because you really have to understand the context here. In 1902, the world was industrializing so fast. Cities were packed with strangers.
People moving from farms to urban centers?
Exactly. And people were desperate for a way to sort the good from the bad quickly. They wanted a cheat code for social interaction.
Which Vaught was more than happy to sell them.
He claims, right in his introduction, that human character can be read absolutely indefinitely. He doesn't say usually or sometimes or, it depends on their childhood trauma.
Right, no nuance.
None. He says, if you know the alphabet of the face, you cannot be deceived. Period.
He really doesn't mince words. I actually have the intro open here, and he writes, quote, "It is high time to be definite."
Such a bold opening statement.
It really is. And to back it up, he lists his credentials. He claims to have performed 50,000 careful examinations.
50,000.
And over 1 million observations. That is just a staggering amount of heads to look at.
It is an enormous data set, assuming we, take his word for it. Imagine the logistics of that. He's claiming to have physically examined, touched, measured, analyzed 50,000 skulls.
I can't even fathom the time that would take.
And then just observed, perhaps from a distance or passing on the street, 1 million more. That's a lifetime of staring at people.
It really is. And that is really the mission for our deep dive today.
Right.
We aren't here to debunk him with modern neuroscience.
No, that's too easy.
And frankly, a bit boring. We are going to step into L.A. Vaught's world. For the next hour or so, we are going to suspend our 21st century skepticism entirely.
We're taking it as gospel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are going to treat this manual as the absolute truth to understand his system. We are going to learn how to read our neighbors, our bosses, and even our kids using Vaught's highly specific visual indicators.
I love this approach. It's like putting on a pair of 1902 VR goggles.
It really is. So effectively, by the end of this deep dive, if I want to know if my neighbor is going to say, steal my lawnmower, or if the person I'm dating is actually going to be loyal, Vaught says I literally just need to look at the shape of their head.
Precisely. You need to look at the bumps, the curves, the angles, and the relative size of different parts of the skull.
Okay, but before we start running around with tape measures and, getting arrested for harassing people on the bus,
Please don't do that.
we have to understand the fundamental theory here. You can't just look for a random bump and know everything without the broader context, right?
No, you really need the framework. Vaught's core concept is that human character isn't this abstract swirl of emotions. It's not a ghost in the machine kind of deal.
So what is it?
He argues that human nature is a compound.
A compound, like in chemistry, like we're made of different chemical elements.
Very similar to that, actually. He posits that the human mind is composed of exactly 42 unchangeable elements, or what he calls faculties.
42. That is a very specific number.
Not 43, not 41, 42. And he actually uses a really useful analogy in the text that helps make sense of this,
Yeah.
especially for an American audience in 1902.
What's the analogy?
He compares a human being to the United States.
The United States, that's a big comparison. Unpack that for me. How is my brain like a country?
Well, think about the country. The United States is a single entity, right? It acts as one nation on the world stage,
Sure.
but internally. It's made up of individual states and territories, Kansas, Oregon, New York, Florida.
Okay, I am with you so far.
Each state has a specific location on the map that never changes. Florida is always in the southeast. Oregon is always in the northwest.
Yeah, and you just move them around.
Exactly. And each state has a specific character or industry. Vaught says a human character is built the exact same way.
Oh, I see.
You are made up of these 42 mental faculties. You have a territory in your brain for language. You have a state for destructiveness. You have a region for parental love.
Okay, so my brain mat has fixed borders.
Right. The language faculty doesn't migrate to the back of your head just because you learn French. It stays in its territory.
That makes a weird kind of sense.
And here is the absolute key to his whole system. Just like in the geography of the U.S., some states are bigger than others.
Right, like Texas versus Rhode Island.
Exactly. In the real world, Texas is massive. Rhode Island is tiny, and that variance is what makes us individuals, according to Vaught.
So in one person, the state of something might be huge, and in another person, it's tiny.
That is the key to individual personality. In one person, the state of self-esteem might be massive, dominating their mental map, like Texas dominates the South.
Then in someone else.
In another person, that state might be tiny, like Rhode Island, while the territory of cautiousness is huge, maybe the size of Alaska.
Okay, so if you know the geography, you know the person.
Vaught argues that if you know which faculties are dominant, which states are the biggest and most powerful in that person's Congress of the mind, you know the person, period.
It's a very mechanical view of the soul, isn't it? It's almost like saying we are all built of the exact same Lego bricks, just in different quantities.
That's a perfect way to put it. Same bricks, different ratios.
You have more red bricks, I have more blue bricks, but the bricks themselves are identical across all humanity.
Yes. And because these states are located in specific parts of the brain, Vaught believes they physically push on the skull.
So it's not just a metaphor.
Not at all. A big state of parental love isn't just a feeling inside your head. It creates a literal bump on the back of the head because the brain tissue in that exact spot is so voluminous, it pushes the bone out.
That's the mechanism. The brain tissue expands and reshapes the bone.
That's the 19th century phrenological theory he is working from, yes.
Okay, so where do we start? If I am looking at a person trying to figure out if they're a decent human being, what is the most important state on the map?
Capital city.
Yeah, what's the capital city of the human soul, according to Vaught?
Vaught is very clear on this, and it reflects the moral values of 1902 perfectly. He calls it the heart of character.
The heart. But I am guessing it's not in the chest.
No, not in the chest. And it's not even in the emotional center of the brain as we might think of it today. It is located at the very top of the head.
Top of the head.
It's a faculty called conscientiousness.
Conscientiousness. So essentially a conscience, the ability to tell right from wrong.
It's that, but Vaught elevates it to something structural. He calls this the backbone of the soul.
The backbone.
He uses a very visceral image here that I actually really love. He says an apple is not sound if it is rotten at the core. And a human is not sound if they are weak in conscientiousness.
Wow.
Yeah, he says it doesn't matter how smart, talented, or charming you are. It doesn't matter if you have a huge music faculty or a massive language faculty. If you lack this top head faculty, you are structurally unsound.
You are a rotten apple.
You are a rotten apple.
So let's get visual, because I bet you anyone listening to this is probably reaching up to touch the top of their head right now. I know I am.
I caught myself doing it when I first read it, too.
If someone has a flat top of their head, does that mean they're rotten at the core?
In Vaught's system.
Yes.
He doesn't pull his punches.
He is absolutely brutal about this. He gives us very specific geometry for reliability. If you want to find an honest person, you look for a head that is high, square, and convex at the back top head.
High, square, and convex.
Right. You want that dome to rise up significantly above the ears.
So height is good.
Height above the ears is very good. If the head slopes off immediately from the forehead, or if it's totally flat on top like a table, you are in trouble.
The tabletop head is a warning sign.
A massive warning sign. He claims that person simply lacks the biological hardware for honesty.
But I imagine it's not just one bump, right? Human behavior is complex.
Exactly. And Vaught introduces a nuance here that I find really fascinating. He talks about something he calls the reliable trinity. The reliable trinity. That sounds almost biblical. Like he's creating a religion out of skull shapes.
It has a very dogmatic feel to it, yes, but it's functional in his system. He says honesty isn't just one single toggle switch in the brain.
Okay, so what else do you need?
Well, to be what he calls positively honest, meaning honest even when it's hard, honest even when no one is looking near a month, you need 3 specific faculties working in concert.
Working together.
First, you need that conscientiousness we just talked about. That's the innate desire to do right.
Right, the moral compass.
But he says that is not enough on its own.
Why not? If I want to do the right thing, isn't that enough to make me honest?
Not for Vaught. You might want to do right, but be too weak to actually follow through when things get tough.
Oh, I see.
So the second part of the Trinity is self-esteem.
Self-esteem, really?
Yes.
That's interesting because I usually associate self-esteem with ego or, arrogance. Why is that essential for honesty?
This is a really fascinating distinction Vaught makes. He sees self-esteem as self-respect.
Self-respect, okay.
If you have high self-respect, you hold yourself to a standard. You wouldn't lie because lying is beneath you.
It's a degradation of your own character.
Exactly. If you don't respect yourself, you might slip up because you don't care about your own standing. A person with low self-esteem might lie to please someone else or to escape trouble because they don't value their own integrity enough to protect it.
That actually makes a surprising amount of sense even today. You need the moral compass and the self-respect to actually follow it.
Precisely.
So what's the third part of the Trinity?
The third member is firmness.
Firmness.
That's your willpower. Vaught argues you might want to do right with your conscientiousness, and you might respect yourself with your self-esteem, but if you have no firmness, you will crumble under pressure.
You'll just fold.
If someone bribes you or threatens you, you cave. So the formula is integrity, self-respect, and willpower.
And if you have those 3 bumps prominent on your head?
Vaught says you are wholly reliable. You are unshakable.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Let's say I'm at a dinner party. I can't exactly walk around measuring the top of everyone's head with calipers to check their trinity. That tends to ruin the vibe of the evening.
It's definitely a faux pas.
Vaught has to give us facial cues too, right? Like, how do I spot an honest person from across the room without touching their skull?
Oh, he gives a whole checklist. He covers the entire body. And some of these are surprisingly specific. First, he says to look at the walk.
The walk, like how they literally move their legs.
But the honest walk, he has a whole section on it. Vaught says an honest man strikes the floor with his heel first.
Heel first, okay.
Why is that honest?
It implies certainty. A decisive step. Clack, clack. You announce your presence.
You're not hiding.
Right. And he says the honest man's toes throw outward.
Toes out.
It suggests openness. If someone walks pigeon-toed toes pointing in, or if they sneak around on their toes without the heel striking first, watch out.
That is a sneaky walk.
It's a secretive walk. That's a person trying to make themselves smaller, trying not to be heard. That is fantastic. I am going to be watching everyone's feet from now on. Heel strike, toes out. Got it. What about the face?
The nose is a big indicator in 1902 physiognomy. You want a straight, clear-cut Roman nose.
A Roman nose, that's the one with the high bridge, right?
Yes. Strong bridge, very straight line down the profile. Vaught associates this with executive force and clarity of purpose.
Makes sense. Strong features, strong character.
And then there are the eyes. The section is actually very poetic in the text. He says an honest eye is open and steady. It looks you in the face without effort.
Okay, pretty standard advice even now. Look people in the eye.
But the detail that really stuck out to me, the one you'd absolutely never think to look for, was the eyelids.
The eyelids, what about them?
You want upper eyelids that form angles.
Angles, like geometric angles on a soft eyelid.
Exactly, as opposed to a perfect, smooth, round arc over the eye.
I don't think I've ever noticed the geometry of someone's eyelid before.
Imagine the eyelid having a slightly squared-off arch, almost like a little tent over the pupil. Vaught believes this denotes a certain rigidity of character in a good way.
Rigidity equals reliability.
It shows structure. And of course, that brings us to the chin. Vaught absolutely loves squares.
Squares.
Square chin, square fingertips, square shoulders. The honest geometry is linear and blocky.
It's funny because we still use the word square to mean honest in English today.
We do.
Like saying fair and square or calling someone a square shooter. I never realized how literal that might have been to people 100 years ago.
It is deeply embedded in our language, and Vaught takes it absolutely literally. If you see straight lines in the face and body, you are seeing straightforwardness in the character.
Straight lines for straight shooters.
Exactly. If you see shiftiness, weak curves, or retreating chins, you're seeing a lack of moral fiber.
Okay, so that's the good guy. High top head, square chin, heel striker, basically Superman.
Pretty much.
Now let's get to the juicy part, because every hero needs a villain.
Oh yes, the deceitful, the swindlers, the people you need to avoid on the streets of Chicago in 1902.
Vaught seems to really genuinely despise deceit. He spends a massive amount of time on it in the text.
It was a massive anxiety of the era.
So how do we spot a liar before they even open their mouth?
Well, if the honest man is defined by conscientiousness, the deceitful person is defined by a really poisonous cocktail of different faculties.
What's the recipe for a liar?
Vaught warns us to look for a combination of high secretiveness,
Naturally.
high approbativeness, which is his term for vanity,
Vanity.
and high acquisitiveness, or greed.
Greed, vanity, and secrecy, and I assume low conscientiousness.
Non-existent conscientiousness. He says this person has a completely flat top head.
The tabletop head again?
Right. But the visual warnings are essentially the exact opposite of the honest man. Start with the eye again.
Okay, what does a deceitful eye look like?
The deceitful eye is restless. It looks furtively from the corners. It won't hold your gaze.
Makes sense.
But here is the highly specific detail Vaught tells us to memorize. Look at the upper lid again.
The angular lid.
The opposite. He warns against a thick lid that presses down hard on the eyeball.
Presses down hard, like a heavy lid.
Yes. He says if the lid looks like it's weighing down on the eye, obscuring the upper part of the iris, it is a sign of cruelty and secrecy.
Wow.
He actually has a drawing in the book labeled Deceitful Eye, and it looks sleepy and shifty at the same time. It's a very specific look.
Like someone who is hiding something behind a heavy curtain.
That's a great way to put it. He says that pressure on the eyeball corresponds to a literal pressure in the mind to hide one's true thoughts.
That is so specific. Pressing down hard on the eyeball. It honestly sounds uncomfortable just thinking about it.
And it doesn't stop at the eyes. He also talks about the deceitful ear.
Come on. A deceitful ear. You can have a dishonest ear. I mean, I've heard of cauliflower ear from wrestling, but dishonest.
According to Vaught, absolutely yes. He warns against ears that are not square at the top and bottom.
Or squares.
He wants a well-formed, somewhat rectangular ear. If it's too rounded, irregular, or misshapen in any way, he considers it a sign of an untrustworthy nature.
Just based on the cartilage.
It goes back to his obsession with the square as the shape of truth. If the ear looks chaotic, the person is chaotic.
And what about the mouth? Because I feel like the mouth is usually where we subconsciously look for lying today. Micro expressions and all that.
This is actually a great observation by Vaught. He says a mouth can look agreeable, but still be entirely selfish.
A fake smile.
Exactly. You have to look past the smile. He warns against thin lips or lips that have specific curvatures that denote an axe to grind.
An axe to grind. How does a lip show that?
He says you can see the selfishness in the physical curve of the lip. If it curls inward slightly or looks pinched, that's acquisitiveness.
The greed faculty.
That's greed. A generous mouth is full and open. A greedy mouth is tight and pinched, holding everything in.
It's really a system of paranoia, isn't it? If you buy into this, you are constantly scanning everyone for these tiny micro features. Is that eyelid too heavy? Is that ear too round? Is that lip too pinched?
It is paranoia, but to Vaught, it's necessary self-defense.
Right. He thinks he's helping.
He believes he's giving you the tools to protect yourself from real danger in a growing, anonymous, dangerous city. He wants you to be armed with intense observation.
Armed with observation. Which brings us to danger.
Yes.
Because speaking of danger, this leads us to what I think is one of his most radical claims in the entire book.
Oh, I know exactly what you're referring to. The idea that there are only two bad guys in the brain.
Yes. The two dangerous elements. This is such a massive simplification of human behavior, but Vaught stands by it completely, doesn't he?
Unapologetically.
Hey.
He claims that out of the 42 elements of human nature, all those states and territories we talked about, only 2 are capable of actually hurting you.
Just 2 out of 42.
Just 2. Destructiveness and amativeness.
Okay, we really need to unpack those. Let's start with destructiveness. That one sounds fairly obvious.
It is exactly what it sounds like. Destructiveness is the source of all anger, revenge, murder, and the simple desire to break things.
The violence faculty.
Visually, this is located on the sides of the head, just above the ears.
Above the ears.
So if a head is very wide there, if the distance from ear to ear is exceptionally huge, it means the state of destructiveness is massive in that person.
So a wide head physically equals a dangerous temper.
A severe potential temper, yes. It provides the biological fuel for violence.
Okay, but here's a weird quirk that I found hilarious and fascinating when I read it. Vaught attributes profanity solely to this faculty.
Oh, the swearing section is amazing.
He is adamant about this.
He really is. He says swearing comes only from destructiveness, nothing else.
So if a child drops an F-bomb, it's not because they heard it from their parents or picked it up on the playground at school.
Not according to Vaught. He says it's because they have a large destructiveness faculty that is literally venting itself out of their mouth.
The words are just the bullets that the faculty fires.
That is exactly how he views it.
That is such a unique take on linguistics. So a profane child is actually a dangerous child?
In Vaught's view, yes. He contrasts this wide-headed swearing child with children who have high veneration.
Veneration, what's that?
Veneration is the faculty of respect for authority and the divine.
Where is that located?
Right at the very top center of the head. Those children, he says, are naturally horrified by bad language.
The good kids.
But the child who swears, that's a child with a wide head. They are prone to violence. Vaught actually calls the combination of high destructiveness and low benevolence savagism.
Savagism, wow.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back.
And what about the second dangerous element? Amativeness, that sounds like. F'amour, love.
You're on the right track. Amativeness is the faculty of physical love, or sex drive. Vaught locates it at the very base of the brain, in the cerebellum, right at the nape of the neck.
At the back of the neck.
Yes. And to him, this is the source of all vice, seduction, and leading others astray.
So if someone has a really wide head above the ears and a big bump at the base of the skull, basically run away.
That is the ultimate Vaught warning. Wide head plus thick neck equals maximum danger.
And he really believes no other faculty can hurt you.
He is very clear on that. Think about the logic of his map. A person with high acquisitiveness greed might steal your wallet,
Right.
but they won't kill you unless they also have destructiveness. A person with high self-esteem might be arrogant and incredibly annoying to be around.
Sure. We all know people like that.
But they won't corrupt your morals unless they have high amativeness. A person with huge calculation might cheat you at a card game, but they won't physically harm a hair on your head.
It really simplifies the entire world, doesn't it? You just have to scan the room and watch out for the angry people and the lustful people.
And their specific skull shapes. It's a very binary, practical way of assessing threat in a crowd. If you see a narrow head, you know you're physically safe, even if the person is a complete jerk.
Right.
But if you see a wide head, you need to be on your guard immediately.
Which naturally brings us to the topic that I think Vaught is perhaps the most passionate about in the whole book.
Oh, definitely.
And probably the real reason many people actually bought this book in 1902. Love, romance, marriage. Because everybody wants to know who to marry.
Yes. The geography of love. Vaught is acting as a relationship counselor here, but his couch is a set of skull calipers.
He literally puts love in the back of the head, doesn't he?
Entirely. Vaught locates all affection in the posterior brain.
The back of the head.
Yes. If you want to know someone is a good lover or partner, you don't look at their face. You don't look at their eyes. You look at the back of their head.
Turn around, let me see your skull.
Exactly. But he divides love into 3 distinct tiers. It's almost like a layer cake of affection on the back of the skull.
A layer cake. Okay, I like that visual.
And you really need to know which layer you are dealing with because they mean very, very different things for your future.
Okay, walk us through the layers of the love cake. What is at the absolute bottom?
The bottom layer, the base of the cake, is that dangerous faculty we just talked about. Amativeness.
The lust faculty.
Right. This is located at the cerebellum, right at the top of the neck where it meets the skull.
The purely physical layer.
Correct. Passionate, purely physical love. Vaught identifies this visually by a thick neck. If the neck is exceptionally thick and bowl-like, and the base of the skull is wide and heavy, amativeness is the dominant force.
And that's a red flag for marriage.
If it's the only thing there, a massive red flag. He calls that person a sensualist.
A sensualist.
Their love is not lasting. It's purely driven by physical appetite. Vaught warns that a marriage built solely on this bottom layer will completely collapse once the initial physical attraction fades.
It's the 1902 version of a hookup faculty.
That is exactly what it is.
Okay, so we definitely want to go higher up the head for a spouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You move up a few inches from the neck and you hit the middle tier. This one is called conjugality.
Conjugality. That sounds like conjugal visits. It means marriage, right?
That's exactly it. This is the biological instinct for marriage, the desire for one partner for life.
And Vaught likes this one.
Vaught loves this faculty. He says a person with high conjugality never flirts.
Never.
Never. They are entirely devoted to one person. They're basically the penguins of the human world. They mate for life.
And what does that actually look like on the head?
Visually, it looks like a rounded, full upper back head.
Rounded.
Instead of the head going completely flat straight up from the neck, it curves outward nicely. It shows there is significant brain mass in that specific middle region. It creates a silhouette from the side that looks very balanced and full.
Okay, so we've got lust at the bottom, marriage in the middle. What is the top tier of the cake?
The top tier is friendship.
Friendship.
That's the highest form of connection in the posterior brain. It's platonic, enduring connection, the ability to deeply bond with people you aren't married to maintain community.
So let's apply this practically. If I'm a young woman reading this in 1902 and I'm looking for a good husband, what is the exact Vaught-approved skull shape I am hunting for?
You are looking for what he terms the reliable husband.
The reliable husband.
He must have a head that is very full in the upper back.
To show the conjugality.
Conjugality and parental love, yes. And it must be high on top.
For conscientiousness? The honesty?
Exactly. Vaught actually draws an outline of this exact head in the book, and he writes a direct caption. Young ladies, indelibly fix this shape of head in your memories.
Fix it in your memory. It's his analog version of swiping right.
It really is.
Yeah.
He says if you find a man with this exact head shape, you can marry him without the slightest hesitation.
And what about the unreliable husband? What is the left swipe head shape?
The flat back.
Flat back.
He describes a head that is totally flat, straight up the back, but very thick at the neck.
Oh, boy. So high amativeness, but zero conjugality.
Exactly. High lust, no loyalty, and no parental love. Vaught bluntly says, beware of such men as husbands.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
He predicts they will be unfaithful to their wives and neglectful of their children. He basically says he will definitely cheat on you and he will ignore the kids. Do not marry him.
It's brutal, but you have to admit it's incredibly practical advice if you believe the system. What about men looking for wives? Does he give them a diagram?
Vaught is equally specific for the men. He talks a lot about finding the genuine mother.
The genuine mother.
He claims there is a highly specific mother love bump.
A bump just for loving kids.
Yes. It's the faculty of parental love, and it's located right in the dead center of the back of the head.
Okay.
He says it is a specific projection. If a woman has a head that rounds out significantly in that one spot, she's a natural-born mother.
Then if she doesn't.
If the back of her head is flat, well, Vaught advises men to just keep looking, move on.
Really? Just based on the flathead?
He views that bump as a strict biological necessity for a happy home. He essentially states that a woman without this projection physically cannot love a child properly.
That is wild. He even gets into the mechanics of bigamy and polygamy with this stuff, doesn't he?
He does. And honestly, this is where his compound theory of the 42 elements gets really wild.
How so?
Well, he defines bigamy not as a legal crime or a moral failing or a bad choice.
What is it then?
He defines it as a literal skull-shape equation.
A math equation for having two families. How does that even work?
He says a bigamist is someone with high amativeness, which is the lust drive,
Plus what?
plus high secretiveness, the faculty to hide the double life,
Okay.
plus low conscientiousness, meaning no guilt about lying to everyone.
Lust, secrecy, and no guilt.
It's a mathematical, biological formula for having two families. In his view, it's not really a moral failing in the moment. It's a predestined, inevitable combination of faculties that forces the person into bigamy.
That is just, it's a completely deterministic view of crime.
It is.
And what about polygamy? Having many wives out in the open.
This one actually surprised me when I read it. He says polygamy, the desire for many wives simultaneously, is a mix of high amativeness plus high spirituality and high veneration.
Spirituality. Wait, that seems totally counterintuitive. You would think spirituality would stop you from having multiple wives?
Vaught acknowledges that. He actually calls it strange but perfectly true.
How does he justify it?
He argues that there is very often a religious or spiritual justification attached to polygamy.
Oh, right. Think of certain historical sects and movements.
Exactly. So he says the skull reflects that specific combination. The spirituality and veneration faculties allow them to truly believe it is a divine calling from God, while the emotiveness at the base of the skull provides the physical drive to do it.
So you have a sort of holy lust combination.
Holy lust is a great way to put it.
That is absolutely fascinating. It's like he's trying to reverse engineer complex sociological behaviors entirely back into bone biology.
That is exactly what he's doing. He flatly refuses to believe that culture or environment or personal choice drives any of these things. It always has to be hardware.
Speaking of hardware, we really have to talk about how Vaught hands in the concept of gender. Because reading this section today, it feels very, well, very strict. Masculine is this, feminine is that.
It is the ultimate visual binary.
Nice.
Masculine is square, feminine is curved. Vaught loves his basic geometry.
Right.
But conceptually, underneath the shapes, it's actually a little more fluid than you might expect for 1902.
Really? How so?
Well, he defines masculinity and femininity not just by biological sex, but by the presence of specific faculties.
Okay, break that down. What are the masculine faculties?
He lists the masculine faculties as destructiveness, combativeness, firmness, self-esteem, and causality.
Causality being logic.
Right.
So it's the hard, aggressive, logical stuff, the state of Texas stuff on our brain map.
Exactly, the dominant forces. And the visual language for this is all squares. Square jaw, square shoulders, straight linear mouth, broad nose, high crown.
Blocky.
Very blocky. He actually quotes Shakespeare here. He says, nature might stand up and say, this was a man. He sees the square as the ultimate physical manifestation of strength and resistance.
And the feminine side?
The feminine faculties are benevolence, parental love, approbativeness.
Approbativeness is the desire to please, right?
Yes, along with cautiousness and spirituality. And the corresponding look is all curves.
Circles instead of squares.
Round head, narrow from ear to ear, so no destructiveness, small curved nose, round eyes, curved sloping shoulders. He sees the circle as the shape of softness, emotion, and yielding.
Which are extremely standard gender stereotypes for the Victorian era.
Completely standard. But here's the interesting twist I mentioned. Vaught freely admits that a man can have a feminine head and a woman can have a masculine head.
Oh, so the hardware can get mixed up with the software.
In a way. He says a man with a round head and curved nose and high benevolence literally has a feminine nature.
Interesting.
And a woman with a square, heavy jaw and high firmness has a masculine nature.
Does he judge them for that?
Not really. He doesn't necessarily say this is morally wrong. He just identifies it as a mismatch of biological faculties. He has a phrase he repeats. Nature builds the body.
Nature builds the body.
So if you have the faculties of a man, if you are internally combative and firm, you will get the square jaw, regardless of whether you are biologically a man or a woman.
So your internal personality literally sculpts your external face over time, or in the womb.
That is the core, unshakable tenet of physiognomy. The soul shapes the body. To Vaught, the human body is just the packaging for the 42 faculties inside. If you put a masculine set of faculties inside a female body, the jaw will just naturally square up, the nose will straighten out.
It's just geometry expressing itself.
Exactly.
Let's move to something that probably caused a lot of anxiety back then.
Yeah.
Parenting.
Oh, the parenting section is intense.
Because if I'm a parent reading this in 1902, I am probably terrified that my kid has the wrong head shape and is going to end up a criminal.
Vaught actually markets this book heavily directly to parents. He tells them you simply cannot raise a child properly unless you know what elements you are working with.
Which makes sense within his framework.
Right. He says you can't treat a square child the same way you treat a round child. He says it would be like trying to grow a desert cactus in a wet swamp. You have to know the nature of the plant.
So how do we spot the good child? The easy one to raise?
You look for the high top head, that's the morals, conscientiousness, and the full upper back head, that's the affections, parental love, and conjugality.
And if they have those?
If a kid has those bumps, they're naturally good. They want to please you. They genuinely want to do the right thing.
And the bad child. The difficult one.
Broad between the ears.
Ah, the destructiveness zone.
Yes. Remember, that's where destructiveness and secretiveness live. If the child's head is very wide above the ears and totally flat on top, you have a major problem on your hands.
You've got a little savage on your hands.
You have a child who is biologically wired to be aggressive and deceitful.
But does he offer hope? Can you fix it? Or is the wide-headed kid just doomed to a life of crime?
Vaught believes in training, but he insists it has to be highly targeted. You can't just use a one-size-fits-all discipline method.
Yeah.
He gives this really great specific example of leading the affectionate child.
Yes, the cord analogy. I absolutely love the illustration for this in the book. It looks like a bizarre political cartoon.
It is a very strange drawing indeed. He shows an illustration of a young boy with a very full, round back of the head. Vaught says because of that bump, you can lead him by his affections.
Lead him like an animal?
He says it's like putting a ring through the back of his head, metaphorically speaking, and attaching a cord to it. You can pull him gently with love, and he will follow.
So pets, praise, hugs, that kind of thing.
Exactly. He says that specific child will respond instantly to a puppy or a kind word from a mother. You can't force him with violence, but you can lead him with affection.
Okay, but what if the kid has a flat back of the head?
Then affection simply won't work. The metaphorical ring won't hold because there is physically no bump there to anchor it.
So hugs are useless.
Totally useless. You might have to appeal to their acquisitiveness, basically. Pay the money to be good. Bribes. Or appeal to their cautiousness. Cautiousness warn them of severe physical consequences. Threaten them.
That is actually, taking away the skull bump stuff, that is shockingly practical advice.
Isn't it?
Just the core idea of know what actually motivates your specific kid. Even if the skull stuff is total nonsense, the psychological idea that not every kid responds to hugs is incredibly valid.
It really is.
Yeah.
Underneath all the pseudoscience, there's some very basic, astute psychological observation going on. He also has a very funny section on crying that I think literally every parent listening to this will recognize instantly.
Oh, the bawling versus crying section.
Yes. Vaught distinguishes carefully between genuine emotional distress and what he calls calling or bawling.
So what's the difference to him?
He says real crying comes from genuine sadness or pain. But selfish crying, the kind that drives parents crazy, that comes purely from alimentiveness, which is hunger, or destructiveness, which is anger.
So if the kid is just screaming in the middle of the store, they're just hungry or mad?
Exactly. He says to look at the child's face. If the mouth is thrown wide open and square, and the sound is a harsh screech, that is not sadness.
It's not a broken heart.
No, that is the demand. He said, do not coddle that child under any circumstances. They're just using their selfish faculties to manipulate the parent.
He calls it a bluff, right?
Call it a bluff. Call their bluff and ignore them.
There is also that bit in the parenting section about latent vitality, which I actually thought was quite touching and hopeful, especially considering the really high child mortality rates of 1902.
Yes, it's a very sympathetic section. He talks about the puny child. Parents in 1902 worried constantly about children dying young from scarlet fever or consumption or just general weakness.
It was a very real fear. So what does Vaught tell them to do?
Vaught says, don't just look at how skinny the child is. Check behind the ears.
Behind the ears, like where you'd put perfume.
Right there on the skull bone. There are prominent bumps there, anatomically called the mastoid processes. But Vaught associates that specific region with vitativeness, the love of life.
The pure biological will to live. He says if a child has large, prominent bumps right behind the ears representing alimentiveness and vitativeness, they possess batteries of life.
Batteries of life. That's a great phrase.
Even if the child looks incredibly sickly and puny, Vaught says they will survive because they have the internal biological engine to keep going. They have a physical will to live that is stored in their skull bone.
It's literally like checking the engine specs on a car. You know, oh, he looks like a rusted out clunker, but he's got a massive V8 hidden under the hood. He'll make it.
Precisely. It gave terrified parents a tangible way to feel reassured about their fragile children. Just feel the bumps behind his ears. He's a fighter. He'll pull through. I love that. Okay, I want to get into some of the highly specific aha moments in the book. The weird, quirky little traits Vaught claims he can spot a mile away. Let's talk about vanity.
Approbativeness. This is absolutely one of Vaught's favorite targets to mock in the book. He locates it at the back crown of the head.
The back crown, near the top back.
Yes, and he says when this faculty is huge, it physically pulls the body out of alignment.
Pulls the body.
It's like a helium balloon is attached to the back of the head, constantly lifting it up and back. A vain person naturally holds their head to the side and upward.
The classic nose in the air look.
Yes, but with a slight tilt. And he mentions they walk with a mincing walk.
Mincing.
Taking tiny, delicate steps so everyone looks at them. But the facial cue is the absolute best part. He says a truly vain person physically shows their upper teeth when praised.
They show their upper teeth like a horse.
It's that sort of simpering, highly delighted smile, the exact look, where the upper lip just curls way up to show the gums.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Vaught calls it the approbativeness grin. And he says if you want to completely manipulate these people, it's incredibly easy. You just press the right button.
The flattery button.
Flattery. He said if you flatter approbativeness, you own them, body and soul. You can sell them anything. You can make them do anything you want.
He treats it like a literal cheat code for social interaction.
He really does.
Yeah.
Oh, I see your upper teeth showing. I'm going to compliment your fancy hat and then immediately sell you this bridge I own.
That is hilarious. What about the opposite end of the spectrum? What about genius? He actually does a case study on Thomas Edison in the book, doesn't he?
He does. And you have to remember, Edison was essentially the Steve Jobs or Elon Musk of that specific era. Everyone in the country wanted to know what made his brain tick.
The Wizard of Menlo Park.
Exactly. So Vaught looks at Edison's head and says, well, it's not magic at all. It's simply constructiveness.
Constructiveness. The building faculty.
The innate ability to build, mechanics, and invent. Vaught points out a massive, prominent widening of the middle side temples on Edison's head.
The temples.
He claims the skull there is literally pushed out an inch by the sheer size of the constructiveness faculty underneath.
So Edison looks like he has a bulging forehead on the sides.
Yes, very wide temples. And Vaught pairs this with another faculty, causality.
The logic one in the upper forehead.
Right. He says that specific physical combination, massive logic plus massive building, is the literal geometry of invention.
So it's not inspiration, it's just skull shape.
He basically says, if you want to invent the electric light bulb, you need your skull to look exactly like this. Otherwise, don't bother trying.
He also distinguishes between different types of students based purely on forehead shape. And this is something I feel like I've heard echoes of in pop culture, the whole high forehead meaning high intelligence thing.
Yes, but Vaught nuances it quite a bit. He talks about the visual student versus the thinking student.
Okay, what's the difference visually and practically?
The visual student has a very prominent lower forehead. The eyebrows project significantly forward.
Almost caveman style.
Well, a heavy brow ridge. Vaught says this lower area is where the faculties of individuality and form live.
Okay, so what does that mean for learning?
These people learn entirely by seeing. They are intense observers. They notice tiny details. They are the artists, the mechanics, who need to physically look at the engine to understand it.
Hands-on learners. And the thinking student.
They have a prominent upper forehead. It bulges out near the hairline.
And that means?
This is causality territory. They learn by abstract reasoning. They don't need to see the physical machine at all. They just need to understand the mathematical principle behind it. They are the philosophers and the theorists.
I am subconsciously touching my forehead right now, trying to figure out if my brow is heavy or my hairline is bulging. Am I a thinker or a watcher?
I think literally everyone does that when they read Vaught.
Yeah.
You just can't help it. You start mapping your own face and questioning your whole life.
Totally. Another one that really made me laugh out loud was his section on blushing. I had never in my life thought of blushing as a phrenological trait. I just thought it was, blood vessels.
Vaught is absolutely adamant about this. Blushing is caused solely by approbativeness.
The vanity faculty. The fear of criticism.
The fear of ridicule, yes. He says, if you do not have a large approbativeness faculty, you literally cannot blush. It is physically impossible for your body to do it.
Wait, really?
Yes. So if you see someone blushing furiously, you know for a biological fact that they care deeply about what other people think of them. It's an unavoidable tell.
So a psychopath with no approbativeness would never, ever blush no matter what they did?
Never. They physically lack the wiring for it.
And what about nervousness in general? Is that the same exact mechanism?
It's close, but it's a combination. Vaught identifies the two roots of all human nervousness as cautiousness and approbativeness.
So fear of physical danger and fear of social criticism.
Exactly. He says if you cut those two specific faculties out of the brain, metaphorically speaking, you would never feel nervous again in your life.
You'd also probably walk straight into speeding traffic because you wouldn't perceive physical danger. But hey, you wouldn't be nervous about it.
Exactly. You'd be very calm while being run over.
Okay, I want to pivot to something a bit darker in the book. We touched briefly on the dangerous elements earlier, but Vaught has a whole entire section dedicated to what he calls the social evil.
Yes, he does. This is a common Victorian euphemism for prostitution, general vice, and sexual immorality, which was a massive, massive topic of public concern in 1902.
Cities were growing rapidly, and people were terrified about moral decay in the slums.
Huge anxiety around it.
But Vaught has a major beef with the typical reformers of his day who were trying to fix it, doesn't he?
He really does. He actually draws a cartoon in the book of these well-dressed reformers shooting arrows blindly at a target labeled Vice. And he says they are shooting wildly.
Why are they shooting wildly? What are they doing wrong?
He says they are aiming at the intellect. They are trying to reason people out of vice, saying things like, don't you know logically this is bad for your health?
Okay.
Or they're aiming at the moral faculties, trying to guilt people out of vice by saying, don't you know this is a terrible sin?
Which seems like the standard approach. Why does Vaught say it's useless?
Because the vice isn't located in those parts of the brain.
Oh.
Exactly. He says the absolute bullseye of vice is in the cerebellum. It's amativeness.
The base of the neck.
Right. He argues that you cannot stop social evil by appealing to the frontal lobe or the top head. You have to profoundly understand that it is a raw biological drive located at the very base of the brain. You are literally talking to the wrong state on the map.
So what's his grand solution then? Mandated brain surgery.
He stops short of that, but he implies that society must scientifically handle and govern that specific physical faculty.
Oh.
He's a bit vague on the exact social policy, but mostly he's just deeply frustrated that people are trying to use logic to fight lust. He says there are different countries on the map. You have to address the biology of the problem, not the philosophy.
It's that United States analogy coming back perfectly. You can't pass a strict law in New York and expect it to be magically followed in Texas if there's no communication between the two.
Precisely. Texas doesn't care what New York thinks, and amativeness doesn't care what causality thinks. He desperately wants reformers to understand the biology.
Now, there is a moment near the very end of the book where Vaught tries to explain a glaring logical loophole.
The variety question.
Right, because if there are only 42 elements in humanity, you'd think we just have 42 basic types of people running around like clones.
He anticipates that exact critique, and he pulls out the math to prove his point. And honestly, the number he comes up with is staggering. He wants to prove mathematically that while the system is simple, the variety is infinite.
I remember reading this. It was something like septillions.
He calculates the exact permutations of 42 distinct faculties combining in different strengths and sizes. The number he prints is 28 digits long.
28 digits.
Astronomical. It's septillions upon septillions.
Oh, just from 42 variables.
He says this mathematical fact confirms that while character reading is absolutely definite, the 42 elements are always the same. The variety of humanity is infinite. No two people in the history of the world are exactly alike because no two people have the exact same mixture and proportion of the ingredients.
It's the ultimate recipe book metaphor. You have the exact same pantry of ingredients, but you can cook infinite dishes.
It is. And that's really Vaught's entire worldview synthesized in a nutshell. A completely standardized biological system producing infinite human variety.
So let's wrap this up. We've looked at the honest head, the dangerous head, the mother love bump, the Edison forehead. What is the big modern takeaway here? Because obviously, science today has completely debunked phrenology.
Oh, completely.
We know for a fact the brain doesn't push the skull bone out like that.
We do. We know that skull shape is determined by genetics and basic bone biology, not by how much you theoretically love your kids. And we definitely know that human personality is infinitely far more complex than just 42 static buckets.
So why do we care? What do we learn from reading Vaught today?
I think Vaught, despite being scientifically wrong, teaches us something genuinely valuable about observation.
Observation, how so?
Vaught constantly urges his reader to use your own eyes. In a modern world where we so often ignore the people around us, or we just stare down at our screens, he is pleading with us to really look at each other.
To pay attention.
Right. To look at the exact shape of a nose, to notice the rhythm of a walk, the specific set of an ear, to be incredibly present and analytical about the fellow humans occupying our space.
He's asking us to not take people for granted, to see them as complex puzzles.
Yes, even if his specific map was factually wrong, his deep desire to truly understand his fellow humans was incredibly high. He just wanted the confusing world to make sense.
You wanted a system.
He wanted to be able to look at a stranger on a crowded Chicago street and know instantly, you are safe or you are dangerous. He didn't want to be constantly surprised or victimized by human nature.
It's a deep, deep desire for control, really, isn't it?
Absolute control. If character is just geometry, then absolutely nothing is unpredictable. It's a very comforting thought in a chaotic, rapidly changing world.
And that leads perfectly to the question I've been mulling over since I finished reading this. If Vaught were right, if my honesty is literally written into my square chin and my temper is locked into the width of my head above my ears, do I have any actual free will?
That is the truly haunting philosophical question of the entire book.
Mm.
Vaught would argue that you can sort of cultivate your weaker faculties, but he also heavily implies that your core nature is completely built before you were even born.
We're just passengers.
Are we the conscious drivers of our lives, making daily moral choices? Or are we really just mindlessly acting out the predetermined geometry of our skulls?
Something for you to definitely think about the next time you look in the mirror.
Or the next time you're walking behind someone on the street and you catch yourself staring intensely at the back of their neck?
Yes, discreetly check for that unreliable husband neck. But please, do it discreetly. Don't get caught out there measuring people's ears with a ruler.
Please don't.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Vaught's Practical Character Reader.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
We'll see you next time. Keep your eyes open.